Welcome. Thank you for being here. We're excited to have you join us today. And LJ is our first presenter, and she's going to guide us into our awareness so we can connect with our intuition and help us make conscious choices. So LJ, I pass it over to you, and please stick around till the end because we do have a Q&A session, and so you can ask us anything you like. All right, LJ.
Thank you so much, Luisa. That was a beautiful way to start our gathering together, and we're so happy that you've all joined us. So thank you for making the time on this Friday to be with us. And we invite you, if you feel comfortable, to put your cameras on, and it'll be an interactive opportunity. Each one of our presentations gives you the opportunity to connect with us. You've experienced a bit of Luisa, and she'll be back a little later with her beautiful sound healing bowls. And then Mary's going to help you discover the practice of mind painting, and Nina will be helping you explore messages from your body. And as Luisa mentioned, we will have some opportunity for questions from the panel. So without any further ado, I'm going to just share my screen. And I want to invite you to tap into your intuition a little bit here. So I know that a lot of times we don't always do the things that we want to be doing, and it's all about being more intentional, and we can tap into our intuition to help make that happen. So just as we will begin, I'd like to help you take a moment to help you connect with your higher self and tap into your intuition. So I'd like you to get comfortable. Sit with your feet flat on the floor, or however you like, to get grounded. And I invite you to close your eyes as well. So let's take 3 deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. So let your body and mind relax now. And I would like you to set your intention to allow whatever wants to come forward today, and do so in a safe environment. So trust that the universe has your back on this and is there to support you. So I want you to take another big breath and put your hands up over your head if you're able. If not, just bring them to heart center. And then bring them together in prayer hands down to your heart center. And I want you to imagine a big blue ball of light inside your heart. See it there. And I want you to take that big blue ball of light and transfer it into your hands. Feel the ball of light in your hands. Now, I want you to allow that blue light to go all over your body, permeate every cell of your being. So feel it there and just allow it. Okay. Extend some gratitude to yourself for being here today. And when you feel ready, open your eyes. Okay, let's see where our journey will take us today. So, self-care is one of those things that often goes overlooked. And it's usually because we're so busy making time for others, we don't necessarily make time for ourselves. But the research shows that if we take care of ourselves first, it actually improves the care that we give to others. And it also improves the quality of our own lives. So we're going to spend some time reflecting on how we spend our time. So I'm going to put some questions on the screen, and you can answer in the chat if you like, or just keep a note for yourself. I know some of you may have brought a journal. If you would like to do that, go ahead. So on a scale of 1 to 4, how true are the following statements? So 1 being not true at all, and 4 being very true. So I spend a good amount of time nurturing myself through self-care. 1, not true at all. 4, very true. So you can put it in the chat. Oh, see some 4s in the chat. That's awesome. Oh, there's my scale. Sorry. Second question. I am happy with how I spend my time most days. So again, not true at all is 1. 4, very true. A couple of 3s. 3.5. Okay, and the final question. I want to pursue my life purpose. Oh, lots of 4s coming up now. Okay. I'd like you to share in the chat, where were you on the scale? Were you, mostly because not everyone put their there are numbers in the chat, but just share how you were feeling about that. When you think about all the numbers that you put, what trends do you see? And did it make you reflect on your level of happiness and whether or not you're living your ideal life? If you're confident about your ability to get there, feel free to just put some reflection either in the chat or in your journal if you'd rather keep it private. I see Mary's put still room for improvement, but on the right track. Awesome. See a couple of people still writing. I'm so glad that you brought journals to do this. Susan, not perfect, but these questions make me lead. Yes, and gratitude for what we have is so important. Love it. All right. So the next little piece that we're going to be doing, reflecting about actually how we spend our time. Because some people say their life would be totally different if we just had more time. And so what I'm going to do is actually give you a link in the chat for a Google Doc if you would like to use it. If not, you can just pop it in. You can use the Google Doc and then you have access to it for something that you can use it later. But essentially, you're making a quick list. Things I have to do and things I choose to do. So if you are just using your journal or another piece of paper, put things I have to do on one side and things I choose to do on the other side. And I'll give you a couple minutes to sort of reflect on that and think about those lists. Maybe give a little thumbs up as a reaction if you've had enough time to write. Oh, I see Ilona. Thank you. I see some thumbs ups. A few more people writing a few things. Okay. And again, you can continue to add to this list, but I want to just consider, well, first, actually, can a couple of people write in the chat a couple of things on their have to do lists? Okay, I see dishes and laundry, day job, email management, householding, manage tech. Right. And then what are some of the things you choose to do? What are those? What are some of the things you're choosing to do? Oh, swimming, story writing, read a book, yoga, walks in nature, walks. Sure. Meditate, friends, journal, exercise. Beautiful. Embodiment practices, art, gardening, love it. Lots of yoga. So, what I want you to consider, are these actually different lists? Isn't everything your choice? Because even if we look back at the things we say we have to do, ultimately, you are still choosing to do it. That there, at some point along the way, you have made a choice that this is then putting it on your choose to do list. And so just considering that perception about choosing that your choices are all within your control, I want you to consider what out of all these things on your list then you want to nurture, and maybe there's things to release. And you might think, well, I can't release doing the dishes, never get done. I'll have a house full of dishes. Maybe you're releasing the resentment tied to doing dishes or something connected to that. Or maybe there's some other way to manage, household chores or things like that. So I'm just going to give you, um, you know, 30 seconds or so just to look at your list and think, what do I want to nurture on these lists and what do I want to release? Okay. So as I start to nurture and release things, sometimes fear can hold us back. So I want to give you a few little steps that you can think about as you go forward fearlessly. So reflect back on the answers to your first three and think, has anything surprised me? And then ask yourself, what is the level of change needed to get the results I want? And then decide, what actions am I willing to take to add more self-care into my life and or live my ideal life? So if you write in a journal, capturing these thoughts and feelings from time to time can really help show you the way forward if it's not clear right away. And sometimes that's helpful to do either before or after a short meditation. So just as we conclude this, I want you to list your top 3 next steps that you could do to get to the level of change that you would like. I see Ilona's put a question in. Yeah, there's a lot of fear connected to responsibilities that we might have, and um, wanting, and especially around financial security. So it's important to really tap into what's important for you. Okay, and just as we've gone through all these things that you may want to nurture and want to release, I want to give you a little example of releasing your have to do's if you still feel that way. So remember, everything's a choice. So you're going to make your choices and then release the rest. And if you haven't had any experience in the releasing process, here are a couple tips. So sometimes you can take a piece of paper and write all the things that are no longer in alignment, and then acknowledge them and then release them. So you can burn the paper, crumple it up, rip it up, whatever feels good for you. And feel free to keep adding to your list of things to release, because just like a cup of tea, if you keep adding more to it, there's no room for the new tea. So you have to release things and open your cup so that there's room for the things that you really want. So thank you so much for participating in my little piece, and I wish you all the best in your journey. So take a moment to really express gratitude to yourself again, your higher self, for everything that became clearer for you today. And take another nice breath for yourself. I'm going to stop sharing. And again, we're going to take questions at the end. I'll still track the chat, but you can feel free to put your questions as we go, and we'll have a little Q&A at the end as well. So with no further ado, I want to introduce Nina McCormack. She is the only American in our group, actually, I should mention that. But she's going to take you through a practice that she calls body listening. And if you've ever thought that your body is trying to tell you something, it probably is. And Nina's going to show you how you can tap into that. So over to you, Nina.
Thank you so much. Can you all hear me? Lovely to see you. We're so glad to have you here today. And thank you, LJ. That was lovely. And hearing about what we can do from an intuitive perspective. And I'm going to share my screen because we're going to shift gears just a little bit. And let's see. I'm hitting the share screen button, and there we go. So now we're going to focus a bit more on what is not so much conscious, perhaps, but what might be coming through our bodies and reflect our subconscious a little more. And the simple reason why this is such an opportunity is that our bodies and our subconsciouses, if that's a word, have opinions. And the curious thing about all of this, from various studies, from brain activity, what's going on with our muscles, what's going on with how we perceive all the sensory input from our world, there's a general sort of focus that our bodies, brains, and behavioral activity are about 95% autopilot or reflexive, or about 95% of the time, whichever way you want to look at it. And if you think about it, this idea that they can be operating from a level of opinions that we might not even recognize that we have, because sometimes these subconscious and body opinions are the opposite of what we would choose when we're consciously focused and consciously moving through our activities. So anytime there is this kind of a gulf, there is what I like to call an alignment opportunity. So that's what we'll get into a little bit more, but let's first see if we can all really feel this for ourselves. So the good news is we all have experience to some extent with recognizing our body reactions. So for instance, how many of you have some memory of this feeling like, get me out of here? You can wave at me through the video or put a 1 in the chat. Anybody recognize that feeling? Yes. And that there are some senses, some sensory sensations that go along with that get me out of here feeling. Or how about this one? Ooh, I am so interested in that person over there. Anybody remember ever having that feeling somewhere along the lines? And also that there's a series of senses, body senses that go along with that one. What about this one? I am so not up for this. Anybody ever felt that one? And recognize that there are some body sensations that go right along with that. And not only that, there are traditions that some of you may have encountered or trained in along the way that use these subconscious or reflexive kind of instincts. One is anytime somebody's working with a pendulum, that's an example of letting subconscious motions or involuntary things interact with a physical object that amplifies the message. Or for any of you who have worked with some form of body listening, muscle testing, those are all examples of things that are normally subconscious, like our muscle tension, being amplified through a modality. But more about that in a bit. But the next thing you might want to say is, okay, yeah, I get that I've had some of these examples of these sensations in the past, but how can I really interpret a message from that? And the short answer is that we calibrate. And let's try to see if we can do that right now. So the first thing that we're going to do is just use some contrasting thoughts to see if we can feel a difference on a sensory level in our own body. So the first one is you just want to think of something, and it's fine to close your eyes if you want or not. Think of something that you really, really like, and notice what, when you're really focused on that, what you feel on the inside. And now focus on something that you know that you don't really like, and see, again, you can close your eyes if it helps you sense better. See what you notice in your body. Does your body have any little movements or tightness in certain places? Or do you hear something? See what you notice with that negative association. Now, the most important thing is to figure out how your body is talking to you. But I just want to show you how mine tends to talk to me first off. So when I think of, for instance, my kids, my body has this little movement where it pitches a little forward. And when I think of something that is unpleasant to me, like political discord, my body kind of pitches back. And so I think that's really interesting. And that actually corresponds with one of the many, many methods of muscle testing called a sway test. But the most important is how your body is talking to you. Just know that there's lots of methods out there that can be taught as well. So now we're going to do another calibration exercise, and this time we're going to do a statement, but something that we know something about. So this first one, just go ahead, and most of your mics are off, but I would say out loud what my name is. So I'm going to say, my name is Nina. And I'm just noticing how my body responds. So you go ahead and do that too. Say what your name is out loud. And notice what you feel. And now let's try a contrasting name. And go ahead and try the name, my name is Pinocchio. So I'm going to say, my name is Pinocchio. And see what it feels like in your body. What happens to me when I say, my name is Pinocchio, my body's like, It just has an immediate reaction. So it disagrees with that particular statement. So then this is an example of how you calibrate with how one can calibrate with how one's body is talking to one right now. And it can evolve and it can change as you learn more versions of this. But don't worry if it's not showing up for you right away, because this is not the ideal setting. We're in a social setting and we've got technology between us that they're all different kinds of interfaces that can be distracting. So you'll get the slides from this later, and feel free to try this again when you're, no audience, nobody's around, you're totally on your own, and you can just listen in, because chances are it will be even more clear. But just right now, put a 1 in the chat, or wave at me again. How many of you saw contrast in your own body between a positive association and something that was negative? Marvelous. And how many of you noticed a contrast when you said your true name and a false name? Did somebody see that already? Great. Wonderful. All right. So then the way we move from this towards being able to interpret body messages is we begin to use statements about things that we don't necessarily know what our answer would be. So for instance, one statement that we could use right now is, my body has a message for me. So go ahead and say that out loud wherever you are, and just listen in and see what response you get. So I'm going to say, my body has a message for me. Everybody listening? So any people get that your body has a message for you even right now? You can wave at me or put a 1 in. Oh yeah, several of you. Great. And I got my 1 forward on that as well. So now we're going to say, okay, for several of us, our bodies have a message for us now. So how would we move forward to be able to suss out what that is? And the general way that we do this is the same way we were just calibrating, which is we use clarifying statements. And notice that they're statements, they're not questions. We're just using, there's some technical reasons I can explain for that, but we use clarifying statements. And the first thing you might want to know about is like, what kind of an issue is this? Or are there underlying cause or assessment for why this came to be? And so the first thing I might clarify is, and I'll go ahead and demonstrate with this. I need to know a contributing cause. And my body pitches back, which for me is negative. There's a body opinion that I don't need to know why this, whatever my body message is happening. But say, just for argument's sake, if my body had pitched forward, which is my positive or yes right now, it's kind of a binary system. These are some further clarifying statements I could ask. I could say, this is about an emotion. and see what I got. I could say, this is about a belief that comes up at times. This is about a calling that shows up a lot of times, that people's bodies sort of have messages that, hey, you have this calling and you're not paying attention to it. This is about my health. That shows up at times. Sometimes you could have a metaphorical pink elephant in your room that you're trying very hard not to pay attention to, or at least your life is trying hard not to have you pay attention, and your body or your subconscious is like, ahem, elephant, ahem. So sometimes your body or your subconscious is very aware of this thing, even if consciously you're busy with other things. Or this is another one that I can test, and I can test even not knowing this issue. What my body message is, this is my issue. And on that one, my body pitched back, kind of saying, no, it's not actually, the origin of this is not mine. So that's very interesting to me. And that does come up from time to time, because sometimes, we're just all in knots about some life or health issue that doesn't feel like it's right in our lives. And our body or our subconscious will say, this isn't even your issue. You've internalized this. This is your parents' issues, or this is, somebody else's issue. And some people can hear that with a great deal of relief, because if you've been, gnashing your teeth and making yourself miserable over something, and your body or subconscious has an opinion that this isn't even like really your deal, it can be kind of freeing. So the other thing that is great about body messages is not only sometimes do they have opinions about, what's going on with us, but they also at times have opinions about how best to align or improve the situation or address whatever's going on so we can continue with our life and health goals. So when that's the case, the good news is we also have experience with this. And the first thing is, many of us already have ways that in our lives, if we're upset, if we're off, if we're not feeling well, that we address it, or we try to address it. And some of these things might be talking with a trusted friend, being in nature. Some of you have yoga practices, we already heard, journaling. They might be talking with a therapist or a counselor. They might be your medical provider, your doctor or specialist, or somebody who's already in your network that you work with. When I've worked with clients, we often, learn muscle testing just as a byproduct of working together. And many of them will just muscle test. This is a Nina's tool set. And I always know, like, if they're coming to me, it's like they've already tried, all the stuff that's in their kit. And it's like, no, this one muscle test is a Nina. So we're all very happy about it, because we all know we're the right, next step in their journey at that point. But one thing that's really helpful with all of these things that are already in your kit is simply to put them in a list, because you notice we've got this binary system. And if you check in with your body and say, this is something that's on my list, and you get what for you is a yes, then you can go right down your list and say it's, among numbers 1 through 5, no, 6 through 10. Oh, yes. 6 or 7, no. Number 8, oh yes. And then I would just go right down my list to what's number 8 on my alignment things that are in my toolkit, and that's the first thing. And sometimes you would get that there's multiple issues, in which case you can ask your body for its opinions about what sequence it would recommend that you pursue with this. But the real point is, even though this is a positive or negative testing system, you can still work with it to be kind of a system where you're calibrating, how is my body speaking with me now? You can use these statements to take stock or assess at least body opinions, body guidance on this issue. You can identify alignment opportunities that are within your own tool set, including shifting a behavior or a habit. You can also use it when your body has opinions about which providers among those you already consult with or specialties. We have so many therapeutic options that have just multiplied in our whole culture, but how do we know which one is for us right now? And if your body or subconscious has additional opinions to your medical care, you can clue in on that through this process. And then the other thing is, when there are multiple steps recommended for you from your body, you can prioritize and sequence them. So to sort of sum it up, what happens as we consult with our bodies and our subconsciouses, as well as the healthcare options we already have about this, and we actually honor what our body is trying to communicate with, or our subconscious is on some level, you'll notice that you're addressing alignment things that are within your tool set, so that your reflexive responses in general in the world start to be more and more aligned with the things that are moving you towards your life and health goals, even when you're not consciously thinking about them at that moment. And a couple things that I've just noticed, and together working with clients, is several things happen quite frequently. The first is that when we have a feeling of either being driven or hopeless about our situation, our body listening can put us right in touch with things that we can do or move forward on. And it's very empowering. So a lot of that sense of hopelessness turns to hope. And then the second thing that can happen is, and people use these kinds of tool sets for additional complementary guidance about health issues as well as life issues, is that even if people are involved with complex medical challenges or trauma challenges or whatever, that they can have a shift from things being maybe at the not the ideal end of what their prognosis was, to shifting over to being much closer towards a better outcome. So it almost seems as though their subconscious gets on board with allopathic treatment and really helping things go better with their medical treatment. And then the third thing that people often report is the body opinions refocus us on a series of callings, almost in a very positive way, rather than a series of feeling like, as we were talking with LJ about, we have to do this. It's like, no, I want to do this. I feel called to do this. This is the way I'm going. And the net result of all of this can be shifting from churning about everything to a much calmer resilience as we move forward consciously and reflexively with our challenges. And that's about all we have time for right now, but you'll get the handouts. There's more information about my website. And I think I'll leave it, stop right there with that. But the good news is our sensory journey is not over. You're in for another treat. Mary McDowell is going to take us on a journey with mind painting. And she is a creativity coach. She blends the principles of Kaizen strategies with her love of Vedic wisdom for a wonderful collage in real life. Mary?
Thank you, Nina. And thank you for that presentation. It was very informative, and your passion and your knowledge and your enthusiasm for this subject area really came across. And each time I've had the opportunity to work with you and to hear about it, I learn a little bit more. So I do encourage people to go back and take in some of this information again when you have a chance, maybe in the replay. And if you need to wiggle or squirm or stretch or do anything, please feel free to do that. So I'm going to share my screen. see. There we go. All right. So I too, everyone can see what I'm sharing, I hope? Yeah, okay. So I'm going to share a practice as well. And this is the practice of mind painting. So what is mind painting? Well, for me, I think of it as a multi-sensory, and it's a self-guided experience, and it's infused with kindness. And the reason infused with kindness is highlighted is because this is one of two things that makes it distinct or distinguishes it from very similar techniques. And when I talk about kindness, I'm not talking about being nice and polite. I'm talking about coming from or living from a place of deep love and compassion and reverence for all. And when we're coming from this place, that is one of our self-care practices. So mind painting is a tool for living into a desired result or outcome as if it's already happening, okay? Or if it's happening currently. But it can also work in reverse, and you can take an existing experience that you've had and deepen it or heighten it. And it's kind of like a full dress rehearsal, but without any risk or any pressure. And it works because of two things that we all naturally have. One is our imagination, and we all know how powerful our imagination can be. If you see a rope in the road while you're walking down the street and you react because you think it's a snake, that is just your imagination. And that also goes to the next point, which is your brain's inability to distinguish between something that's happening in the moment and something that is remembering. And so there's lots of scientific studies about this. Obviously, the example of the rope and the snake is one. I heard an interesting one from Laura, who's on the call today, about poison ivy. And this is one that you've probably all experienced. What do you have? You have a lemon. If you look a little closer, you'll notice that the lemon is not just yellow. It has varying shades of yellow. It's not just one uniform shape. It's a unique shape to this particular lemon. And if you were to cut into this lemon, you might notice the smoothness or the coolness of the handle of the knife, and also the resistance as the blade goes through the rind. It's a little bit different than when it goes through the flesh of the lemon. And if we were to cut it into wedges, there would be a lot more of that invigorating citrus scent that you could experience. And if you were to pick it up and squeeze it a little bit, you would notice that it's flexible and it might be a little juicy, and you might get a little of that stickiness on your fingers. And then if you were to pop it in your mouth and take a bite, what happens? So does anybody notice anything? Maybe put a 1 in the chat to let me know if anything, you experienced anything. For a lot of people, the common experience is saliva floods their mouth as the body anticipates sort of neutralizing that very sour taste. For other people, it might be like squinting up your face, pushing up your face. And yet there was no lemon, right? So there's the power of our imagination. So let's get ready to do our first mind painting. And I just want to reassure you that everything you need is just in your imagination. And I'm going to go over a quick inventory of tools. These tools are in your imagination. Then I'll guide you through the process. And then we're going to let your painting dry. And while we do that, we're going to come back and look at a few more slides. And I'm doing this on purpose because then I want to have a break so we can go back and look at your painting and help to strengthen that sensory connection that you will have, that you're going to gain. So of course we need a subject for the painting. And I thought you can paint anything, but today I'm going to encourage you to paint a moment when you feel fully aligned. And what do I mean by that? I mean, there's lots of ways of describing it. When your head and your heart and your gut are all in agreement is one way to look at it. People talk about when they're in the flow, when they're in the zone, when they're feeling relaxed, centered, and connected. For me, it's when time stands still, or sometimes it even stops and disappears, and everything just feels effortless. I'm just gonna, oops, I can't see the bottom of my slide. Some people like to think of it as your happy place. So it's another way of looking at it. So can everybody just sort of imagine or recall an event like that? And if you can't, what might it be like? Again, your imagination can create this place of alignment. So here's some of the things we're going to need. You're going to need a paintbrush, an imaginary paintbrush. And the reason I chose this slide is because I want you to remember that we're experimenting, we're playing, it might get messy, not to have any expectations. But your paintbrush is going to be really special. First of all, it's the perfect shape and the perfect size, perfect weight for you. And it also has this special property where you don't need any artistic talent. You simply need to dip it in the special paint we're going to use and touch it to your canvas. And when you do this, whatever you are sensing, whatever you are experiencing will be instantly expressed on the canvas. And it might appear very photorealistic. It might appear abstract. It might appear impressionistic. It might be blank. So just trust the process and go with the flow. We're also going to need a place to paint. For some reason, whenever I do this, I'm always in just like almost like a green screen room, and there's just the objects that I need. But yours might be outside, it might be in an actual studio, at your kitchen table, wherever you feel comfortable. You'll need an easel to put your canvas on. And again, I've chosen this image of a daycare easel because I want you to remember that when a child paints, they paint for the sheer joy of putting color and spreading it all over a piece of paper without any expectation of what it looks like. And we have special paint. Our paint isn't based on color, it's based on a sensory experience. So what you see, what you hear, what you taste, what you smell, what you touch. And instead of water to rinse, we have a rinse of kindness. You're also going to need your curiosity, a sense of childlike wonder, and of course, your imagination. All right, so we're getting ready to create our mind painting. It's this idea of transporting yourself into a place where you feel fully aligned, in your happy place. And the reason we're going to do this, because this is one of our self-care practices, but when you have your finished product, your finished painting, you'll be able to go back and revisit it and instantly have that experience of being, aligned, feeling in the zone. And you can use that on its own to achieve that state again, or you can combine it with another practice that you may already use when you want to feel centered and grounded. All right, I'm going to invite you just to settle in, maybe squirm a little bit more in your seat so you're comfy. We're just going to take a few minutes now and close your eyes or lower your gaze and find yourself in your painting spot. I invite you now to pick up your brush. Just notice how it feels, how good it feels, and put it in the rinse of kindness. And when you put it in the rinse of kindness, give it a little swirl around. Maybe you can hear it or feel the resistance. And then I invite you just to apply this kindness almost like a wash all over the canvas. And when we do this, we're doing two things. We're infusing our painting with kindness, this sense of deep love and compassion to ourselves and to all life. And we're also adding our intention to the canvas. In this case, it's about capturing a moment when you felt fully aligned, connected in your flow state. And then we're going to take the brush and we're going to dip it into the pot that's labeled sight. And when you think about being in this state, what are you seeing? So when you paint, when you touch your brush to the canvas, it will convey what you're seeing. But this is not a self-portrait, so it's not painting you in a situation, it's what you would actually see. So are there any objects? Are there any shapes? colors, people. If you are in a state of meditation in your flow state, your eyes might be shut, so you may not see anything, or you might see darkness, and that's okay. That's what you'll paint. Then I invite you to rinse your paintbrush in kindness, and this time dip it into the pot that's labeled hearing. So you're going to think about, what sounds are you noticing? Are they loud or are they soft? Are they close by or in the distance? Are they musical? Maybe you hear the sound of rain. And you hear anything that's internal. And you hear your heartbeat. Or and you hear your breath. Or maybe there's a kind and encouraging thought coming through. And just touch your brush to the canvas and it'll all be captured. And we're going to rinse the brush off again in our rinse of kindness. And this time we're going to put the paintbrush into the paint labeled blue. Now, in your recollection of your flow state, you might not be aware of any taste. But maybe you have freshly brushed teeth, or you've just had a sip of your favorite beverage. So you can always add a taste to enhance your experience, maybe a piece of chocolate, or home-baked, freshly baked bread. But each of the senses doesn't have to be the same value or weight. So just like in a painting, there might be lots of blues and only a little yellow. There may not be as many taste sensations in this particular painting. Okay, we're going to rinse our brush again. This time we're going to dip it into smell. So what are the scents that you're aware of? Are they strong or subtle? Maybe somewhere in between? Are they floral, outdoorsy? Maybe you have a favorite candle or scent. Again, there might not be any odor at all, which is fun. Just touch your brush to the canvas and trust that it is being captured and expressed. Again, we're going to rinse our brush one more time, and this time we'll put the paintbrush into that of touch. And this time I want you to think about what's touching your body. What are you touching with the ground beneath you? You're sitting on a chair or on a yoga mat. What's the temperature like? How does that feel on your skin? If you're holding anything, is it soft or rough, smooth or hard? And touch might also be what touches your heart. So are there any emotions that you're feeling? Again, touch the brush to the canvas and just trust that it's all captured. And then I just want you to stand back in your mind's eye. Take a moment to look at your painting. Don't force anything. If nothing is there, that's okay, because the sensory experience, notice how you're feeling, where you're feeling. And then we're going to metaphorically let our painting dry and come back to our PowerPoint for a second. I wanted to go quickly. I wanted to have a distinct break between painting and then just we'll come back to it, because this is a practice, and the more you experience your painting, the quicker access you'll have. But you could use it for relief from insomnia. You could have a painting of you deeply in a deep, deep, relaxing sleep. So when you're feeling that anxiety of being in and not being able to get back to sleep, or not being able to get to sleep, you could call up your mind painting for sleeping, for practicing a presentation, for feeling more confident in a social situation. activating a sense of calm and presence like we just did. But it could be any state of mind. If you need to be focused, if you need to be energized, if you need to be engaged. So anything that you can think of, you can do a mind painting for. And some of the benefits are that you can go back to your painting at any time and add details or take details away because your painting is only for you to see. So you get to make it, you can even change the style of painting if you wanted. And you have instant access to this emotionally embodied experience anytime you recall your mind painting. So that is the second difference that some of the similar techniques have, is this ability to instantly come back to it. We're going to experience that in a minute. And then, of course, you can make lots of mind paintings and put them in a mind painting gallery. And you can highlight or feature your favorite ones or the ones you use the most. You can have rooms of paintings. You can organize it any way you want. So some of the benefits are that it's a very portable technique. You don't need anything. So you can do it anywhere, anytime. It's practical. It works with repetition, and it literally doesn't take very long to make a painting once you understand the process, but it takes even less to recall a painting, like 10 seconds or less. It's very purposeful. You can use it to elevate a skill, to establish a habit, to enhance an everyday ordinary experience, and for personal development. If you want to gently expand outside your comfort zone, you can create a mind painting of you doing something that maybe feels a little uncomfortable in real life to do. It's productive because it can help you achieve your goals, and it can help you to create a positive change that you may desire or want in your life. So I'm just going to ask you to close your eyes. I forgot to do the guided relaxation at the beginning, so I apologize for that. So just take a moment to close your eyes, maybe connect with your breath again, feeling yourself centered and grounded, and bring yourself through your imagination into that painting spot that you had created. And just stand in front of your easel and look at your painting. And again, it's not so much about what you see, it's about what you feel. Can you feel the connection to that moment of feeling fully aligned, of being in the flow, of things feeling effortless, of being in your happy place? And if you want to make any changes, add any details, you can do that now or you can do it at another time. And then we'll come back. And then I just invite you to plan to practice this. If you stack it with something that you already do, before you turn on your computer, before you pick up your phone, before you go into a meeting, just recall your mind painting and see what happens over time. So I want to thank you very much for letting me share this with you. I don't know how to get out of my share screen. Oh, there we go. I'd love to hear your experience in the Q&A and discussion that we're going to have after our next presentation. But right now, I want to introduce to you Luisa Reyes. And we heard a little bit of her beautiful music at the beginning of the call of Crystal Bowls. And Luisa's going to take us on a sonic alchemy journey. Yeah, that's just the coolest title ever. A thumbs up if you agree. And I have to say that we've had the pleasure of hearing this several times when we've been preparing for the presentation. Not only is this just a beautiful healing modality and a lovely experience on its own, but I think it's the perfect way to end our for samplers because it also will give us a chance, all of us a chance to sort of incorporate, to assimilate, and to integrate what's been shared here today. So I will let you take it away, Luisa.
Thank you so much, Mary. That was so lovely. And I really enjoyed the mind painting, and it was a beautiful experience. And I just thank you for walking us through that. So I am going to talk a little bit about sound healing. And is there anyone here who has not experienced sound healing before today? Do you want to put a 1 in the chat? just if you have not experienced it. And I'll keep talking. So I do call it a sonic alchemy journey. Typically, they're called sound baths. And the idea behind that is that you're bathing in the sound, which is beautiful. Just for me, I started to call it a sonic alchemy journey because sonic being sound and alchemy because there is this process of alchemy that takes place. The alchemy of sound itself with the bowls and as I sing and play and all of that combined. But also there's an alchemy that takes place within us when we hear and when we receive these sounds. And so it just takes us on this transformative process. And if we're familiar with the term alchemy, it takes something that's more, I guess, basic and transforms it into something of more value. So typically there's lead being turned into gold. And so you can come to a sound journey experience and maybe you're feeling a little tired and then by the end you feel rejuvenated. Or maybe you're feeling a little down and out and by the end you're feeling uplifted. So there's that process of alchemy, of one state being transformed into another state. So that's the alchemy piece. And then I call it a journey because we each have our own individual experience, our own journey with the sounds. Not everyone has the same experience. And I often like to say, there was an event that I did probably about a year ago, and there were a few people who shared their experience at the end, and one person said that they felt like they were floating in the cosmos, and another person said that they were taken to ancient Egypt and they could see the pyramids and they saw these hieroglyphs, and another person said that they could feel emotions clearing out. They felt heavy, and by the end they just felt lighter. And they all attended the exact same event. So they all heard the same sounds, the same songs, and yet they all had a very different experience. And so that's one of the reasons why I love sound, because sound is universal, but sound healing works with us on an individual level. And so I absolutely love that because it's a tailored experience each and every time. And I noticed some people mentioned that they do yoga, they practice yoga. And so for anyone who practices yoga, you know that your practice isn't the same every time you show up on the mat. And it's the same with sound healing as well. It's not the same every time. So the person who felt that they were brought to Egypt may not go there the next time. They might have a completely different experience next time. And that's okay. It's okay to allow yourself to have your own experience and to know that it can change and vary. So you don't want to compare. You don't want to compare your experience with someone else's or compare it to what you had last time. It's just allowing yourself to have the experience that you're meant to have in this moment, because the sound interacts with us and it knows what we need. It meets us where we're at, and it provides what we need in that moment. So, I want to demonstrate a little bit about the alchemy of sound. And so, if I just snap my fingers, that's a sound, right? It doesn't sound like anything special. It's just someone snapping their fingers. But when we start to add rhythm, there's a beat, it becomes something more. And then if we start to add melody, that turns into something else. And that's the alchemy. So I just want to demonstrate that, and we'll move into the sound and I'll allow you to have your journey. Okay? So just take a moment take a breath, and I invite you to allow the sounds to wash over you. Slowly bring some movement back to your body. You can wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, maybe take a little stretch, a yawn, and in your own time, you can open your eyes. Thank you for being here. And if you have any questions, we are going to begin the Q&A session. You can either type them in the chat, or you can raise your little Zoom hand, and we'll call on you and we'll answer your questions. Thank you so much for being here, and we hope you enjoyed your experience.
Thank you so much, Luisa. Oh, how did everyone enjoy that? Isn't it amazing? Does everyone feel refreshed for the weekend now? I see lots of smiles, so I'm glad. I'm glad. Some celebratory reactions. Yes. Thank you for everyone for being here. We enjoyed having you all here. And we will send you a recording of the session, as well as a handout that has some information about all of us and some of the things that we're doing as well as our slides. So you can review all the slides that we went through. And if you have any questions, all of our contact information is available as well. So I'm going to if anyone has any further things. I'm seeing none. I see a number of comments in the chat. Oh, Alona, sure. Go
I have
ahead.
a question for Nina about the sway test. And I've taken a course with Nina once before, a couple of years ago by now. So I'm curious about whether you need to like find a way to recalibrate and recenter, because sometimes I feel like my momentum is still going forward, or a backward movement is just a reaction to the fact that I was forward. Is there a way to just say, okay, here's center?
Yeah, if when we're teaching it, kind of, we would, if you're, there's several versions. There's standing, there's sitting, there's even versions that use your arms and this and that and the other. But I think it's a best practice to try to get back to your center, what you experience as a center before you introduce another thought. Just because it's a little clearer that way. But nonetheless, if you were already forward, for instance, and you introduced a second thought and you didn't stay forward, that would still be somewhat of an indication, that relative to where you just were. But I usually try to get back to the center when I use that. I think it's one of the most accessible ways of learning muscle testing at the beginning, and there are dozens, literally. But I found over time that my body led me to other preferred methods too. So it's kind of nice if you have a menu of body listening techniques. And a lot of people discover that they've just got something that's totally original, like their little thing. I'm thinking of one person I've worked with who hears a voice and finally realized, oh, the voice. That's, and I'm thinking, gosh, I wish I had a voice that would just put things in like clear sentences so I could not have to, suss things out the long way. But anyway, so it sounds like you're well on the path. Congratulations. That's great. Anything else we can clarify? Alana or anyone?
That helped, thanks.
Very good.
All right. Well, with that, we'll let you go and have a wonderful weekend. And you can look for an email from us to pass along the recording and the information accompanying all of our presentations today. So thank you again, and we wish you well in all of your self-care journeys. Take care.
Thank you all.
Yes, thank
Take
you.
care.
Thanks for staying till the end.
See.